Hey there everyone! Recently I've been thinking a lot about nothing, and it's a lot harder than you think. Pretending to give a crap about the newest F-Zero game is tiring work. Well, if only I could think of a game that does exist, but people always forget about. The Kid Icarus series is one of the most interesting parts of Nintendo's history. It started out as a moderately successful NES game released in late 1986 that nobody remembers owning. The game then got a sequel on Game Boy in 1991 called Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters, which was strangely only sold outside of Japan. After that, the series went completely unacknowledged by Nintendo and fans alike. So of all games in Nintendo's arsenal, why did they decide to revive this series by giving it a major release on the 3DS back in 2012? That's what we're going to be discussing today, as well as how the game actually is quality-wise. Now yes, we could be spending this time finding a cure for gingivitis, but that probably doesn't involve a three-headed dragon, now does it? Sorry to keep you waiting! Kid Icarus Uprising was revealed at E3 2010 to be used as a graphical showcase for the soon-to-be-released Nintendo 3DS. Looking back at this game now, oh boy was that ever a smart move. Uprising is a really nice-looking game and very effectively shows the difference between the DS and 3DS in strength. None of this explains why Nintendo decided to bring back Kid Icarus of all games. Maybe the fact that Nintendo never planned for its return might explain things? The series' main character, Pit, was only ever acknowledged beyond his own games in the Super Smash Bros. Series by Masahiro Sakurai. He was a trophy in Melee and then made his way into the game as a full character in Brawl. This made it very clear that if anyone cared about Kid Icarus, it was Sakurai. Upon finishing his work on Super Smash Bros. Brawl, he was approached by the former president of Nintendo, Satoru Iwata, to make a game for the Nintendo 3DS. He told Sakurai that it didn't matter what franchise the game was a part of, which allowed Sakurai to do whatever he wanted to. Thus, Kid Icarus Uprising was released to the world. It scored an 83% on Metacritic and sold 1.35 million units. 1.35 million people also can't feel anything in their left wrist. When this game was released, it was bundled with a stand for the 3DS. Why? Well, the game has an unorthodox control scheme and Nintendo didn't want to hear anyone complain about it. This is a shooter game that predominantly utilizes the touchscreen. You point the stylus around to aim your weapon and you press L to fire. This means your left hand is literally doing all of the heavy lifting, which can really hurt after a long gaming session. Now before we get into this game's gameplay, let's discuss the story. I will start my attempt right now. 1, 2, 3, I give up. It's not that the game's story is super complicated or anything, but it is pretty long and your goals change every few missions. To put it simply, Pit is off on a quest to stop Medusa. Things get weird and then Hades shows up. While I may not be able to explain the story very well, I will be able to talk about the game's characters. There's the main character, Pit, an optimistic, goofy angel who needs help from his goddess to fly. That goddess being Palutena. She's a good friend to Pit who, despite being an all-powerful being, sort of acts really silly the whole game. There's the horrifying yet charming villain Hades, a dark clone of Pit whom Smash Bros. Fans hate, and the goddess of nature, Viridi. She's probably one of the most likable characters in the entire game, which is pretty surprising as her favorite thing to do is kill humans. New characters are constantly being thrown at you. They aren't all that important, but I mostly like them all. Even the random bosses you encounter are entertaining. One thing Sakurai made sure of when making this game is that it felt like it was a part of the Kid Icarus universe. There wasn't much of a universe there to begin with, so props to him for pulling that off. Occasionally, the characters will make a reference to something from past Kid Icarus games like the eggplant enemies. This is probably a good time to mention the writing. It's absolutely god tier. It's really funny. There's this one part of the story where Pit has to find the 3 sacred treasures from the first Kid Icarus game in order to fight the villain, and it's the coolest thing. Alright folks, it's time to talk about the gameplay mechanics of this game. It's pretty damn complicated, and I hate speaking, so we're just gonna let my subconscious take this one. Time to pop this pill and pass out. Yeah, we're leaving that in. That's the best take we're getting. The first thing worth discussing is the two different gameplay styles that you'll switch between. There are the automatic flying sections that typically take place at the start of the level, and there are the ground segments where you gain full control over Pit and walk around the land. These two styles are of equal quality to me. Both sections play similarly, and you'll battle enemies and bosses in both sections. The major difference between these is the level of control you're given. You only have to focus on surviving and killing enemies when flying around in levels. In ground segments, however, have areas to traverse with different stage mechanics to interact with. These mechanics include grind rails, different vehicles, or something completely different. Each level is designed pretty darn well, and they're all a treat to play. Except for that one stage where you attack a spaceship, that one just sucks. On your first playthrough, all 25 levels may last between 15 to 25 minutes or so each. This may end up making the game sound short, but it definitely isn't. The game gives you plenty of reasons to replay each level as you have different achievements to go for. Each level ends with a boss encounter. I mentioned the bosses earlier, but I didn't get a chance to go into further detail on them. Most of them boil down to you dodging their attacks and shooting them back, with only a few unique ones. This isn't really a problem though, as the battles are just fun to do. This is great and everything, but it's the little things that this game adds which truly showcase Sakurai's genius. Before implementing it in the Super Smash Bros. Series, the intensity wheel/betting system was first introduced in this game. Kid Icarus arguably handles it better than Smash Bros. As it's more clear when you're entering a harder difficulty. There are also these intensity gates that you can find when exploring the ground, which can only be entered if you're playing the level at a high enough intensity. I'd recommend staying at the lower intensities if you're anything like me. You're gonna get absolutely obliterated by this game, man. There are also many different weapon types to choose from before entering a level. This lets you mess around with a bunch of different playstyles to see which works for you. My personal favorite is the whatever weapon I already had equipped option. I'm a very lazy person. It's a shame I act this way considering the game has a frickin' crafting system to help you make stronger weapons. One thing I cannot praise this game enough for is the music. I know Smash Bros has some banger remixes, but dang! Sakurai knows what the fans want. It's honestly some of the best video game music out there, and I highly recommend you all give it a listen. If you don't enjoy it, that just scientifically makes you a lizard person, bro. I'm sorry. Since this was one of Nintendo's first major releases on the 3DS, they wanted it to be able to showcase all of its major features. One of those features would be the AR mode. Kid Icarus Uprising came with a bunch of AR cards that can be used to make your characters come to life in the real world. Each card has its own stats and the characters can battle. Is this cool? For about 5 minutes. Is this good? Nah, it's pretty lame. Honestly, I didn't have high expectations for this or anything. It's purely a gimmick. Another mode in this game that takes advantage of the 3DS would be the online battle mode. From what I hear, it's pretty cool, but it's 2021 and nobody's playing this game online anymore. I guess it's worth a shot if you and your friends get together or something. I haven't been able to try it. So, that's Kid Icarus Uprising. It's a really fun game and I recommend it to those that can deal with everlasting wrist pain. If you don't own a 3DS, I would not hold your breath for a remake or sequel on Switch. Sakurai's made it clear that he has no interest in continuing the series. So I guess we'll have to wait another 21 years for Kid Icarus to be given another shot. In the meantime, let's go back to fantasizing about things that don't exist. a new Star Fox game. Oh, another Donkey Kong Country game. Ooh, Metroid Prime 4, that one's never happening. Ooh, I got a good one. An actual good ending to this video. That joke was horrible, but it's kind of the point.
Again today I will go soaring through the sky. My enemies, I'll dish them up and us to fry. Gracious goddess of light, watches from up above. At dinner time I always show the cook some love.
What are you singing?
Just this little victory song I made up.
This game is perfect.